So in honor of Nonfiction November, I created a specific list of my personal nonfiction recommendations based off of different genres. Feel free to skip around to whatever genre you're interested in. Hopefully you'll find your next nonfiction recommendation. So if you're interested in any more book recommendations or book-related content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little like button, and let's bring on the books. So we're gonna start with my true crime recommendation, and that is Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. So first off, this is a major content warning. This book is about the Harvey Weinstein sexual assaults. It's really well written, it's really interesting, it's very specific, and it's very focused on the women, which is important. It's not as much about his experience as a journalist as it is his experience as a journalist trying to share the stories of women. The whole conspiracy gets really wild. There's like legitimate spies at some point, like with the frickin' like pen recorders and everything. It's definitely a wild ride. If you don't know any of like the specific details of this story, I think this is an absolutely fantastic resource. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a fun read, but it is a good read. If you're looking for something a little different in the true crime area, I think this is a really nice addition to that genre. The next one is history, and so this is specifically Los Angeles library history, which I know is a really specific subsection of the genre. It's one of my favorite reads probably ever, and that would be The Library Book by Susan Orlean. In the late 1900s, the Los Angeles Library was set on fire. It was the largest library fire that ever happened in the United States. So it's partly a really lovely history of the Los Angeles Library, how it went from mail only into the 21st century. And it is also a true crime story because we also follow like the suspect who everyone thought committed the arson. We follow his life and like why he wanted to set the fire and if he even did set the fire. And so we're kind of following this mystery at the same time as we're learning about the history of the Los Angeles library system. It's really freaking cool. And Susan Orlean has such a beautiful way with words and with describing people. Every new person that she meets, she has these like little 1 or 2 sentence character descriptions, I would describe them as. They're so succinct and clear. You can literally see the person standing in front of you. I think it's really, really gorgeous and beautiful and amazing. I think she's so talented in the way that she uses words. This actually sparked me wanting to become a librarian myself. I don't think I care to learn what libraries are like, or the inner runnings of a library, or the history of libraries. I didn't think I cared. I care now. It's a great historical piece, also true crime, also present day, also nice commentary, also beautiful writing. It's fantastic, a 5-star book for me. I would definitely recommend it for kind of like a smush of a couple genres, but I'm putting it under history. Yeah. If you love books, do yourself a favor, read this one. It's perfection. So my next category is books about race. This would also fall under history, and that is Caste: The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This book's thesis is essentially that the American racial hierarchy, so United States racial hierarchy, is actually a caste system similar to India's hierarchical caste system. There's a lot of research that goes into this book. It basically details the history of slavery in the United States. This book, again, is super dark, really graphic, really specific in the details of what happened, so we can be very clear that these were normal, everyday people who were enacting lynchings. These are people that are still alive now, and this was an everyday occurrence. This was not something that was new or weird or even all that horrifying to a lot of people. I highly recommend this book if you live in the United States, if you've been impacted by the United States. It put a lot of things in perspective for myself and really gave me a solid background on how America is the way that it is today and how that impacts everyone. Truly beautifully done. The next category is academic or biology-esque books. So if you like animals, if you like biology, this is definitely the book for you, and it is Are We Smart Enough to Know How Smart Animals Are by Franz de Waal. The short answer is yes, kind of. The long answer is really interesting, and literally if you like research, if you like learning about animals, if you like experiments, if you like that kind of process of research, or if you're interested in animal behavior, even on like a cursory level, Oh my god, you will really, really enjoy this. This entire book is just descriptions of different experiments done on different animals. Not like horrible experiments, like how we test animal intelligence, how that relates to elephants versus monkeys versus pigeons. He covers kind of a whole wide breadth of different animals here. It's very intellectual. I'm not a biology major. I'm not an animal behaviorist. I would never want to be a biologist. I don't care about biology. I want to avoid those classes as much as possible. But this book was really, really fascinating. It is all experiments. It is all how unique and intelligent and beautiful animals are and nature is. Man, it's very good. My next category is feminism, and that is Invisible Women by Carolyn Criado Perez. Again, this book is super, super incredibly well researched. It is full of interesting details. It covers a wide array of the female experience. It's all statistics, and it's basically talking about the data bias that we live in, how women are constantly conceived as the other, and how we create our world. So men are often the ones studied in experiments, in product testing, and women are usually either a very small portion of the testees, or just not involved at all. Perez uses so many different examples. I'm a feminist and I like to read, so I read a lot of feminist literature. So there were some things that I knew about and some things that I really didn't. Some things that like really surprised me. I think if you're interested in how the world works, if you are a person living in the world, you should read this book. I loved every little bit of this. And loved by which I mean I got really mad and like yelled about living in the world as a woman, but that's besides the point. I feel like every facet of human life was present in this book, and I just thought it was so good. It was so good. So highly, highly, highly recommend you read this one, please. For self-help books, I don't read a lot of self-help books. The few that I do are really specific. But if I was to recommend a self-help book to someone, I would recommend Polysecure by Jessica Fern. And I would recommend this to monogamous or non-monogamous individuals. It's like a relationship self-help book, but geared towards polyamorous individuals. She's a psychotherapist who specializes in polyamory. She obviously knows what she's talking about. She's super generous in her knowledge. And you can feel like she's very kind and honest about the world, about people, about relationships, about attachment. I think if you are interested at all in your own attachment style or your future relationships, or wondering why past relationships maybe didn't work out, maybe why you self-destruct, etc., etc., I think this one's really, really good. Hearing these things in a perspective that is not focused on the traditional monogamous perspective is really important. There's a reason why not everyone is built for monogamy, and I think she does such a good job at talking about it in a way that is just like really normal and natural. It doesn't feel like she's trying to force us to feel a certain way about it one way or another. It's really about like introspection. I learned a lot about myself reading this book, and so I encourage you to do the same. Okay, so my last recommendation for you guys is under the category Biography. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I love this book so much, and it is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. I actually have it in physical copy, which is how you know I really like it. This is basically about this woman who has fucked up her entire life. She decides that she doesn't know who she is anymore, and so she finds out about like this hike that people do on the Pacific Crest Trail, which is basically you walk along the entire trail from the American-Mexican border all the way up to the American-Canadian border. She decides she's gonna do that. She doesn't train, she's doing this by herself, she's not an outdoorsy person, she just knows she needs to go and do something to fix what's going on. I really love this book for a couple of reasons. First off, I think if you've ever felt that very human emotion of having screwed up something really badly, or that self-destructive tendency, I think you'll relate to Cheryl Strayed. She's incredibly intimate with her writing. She's incredibly honest with who she is and how she is and what she's thinking. I think it's just really lovely, honestly, to read and to experience as a person who lives a life in this world. So that's one reason. The second reason why I really love this is that the actual adventure of her on the trail is freaking crazy. The story is just wild. She's by herself pretty much the entire time. She meets a couple of people along the way, but like she's by herself for most of this. She has no idea what she's doing. She buys 2 small boots. Her backpack is too heavy. Like everything that could go wrong on this trip absolutely does. Third reason why I think this book is so freaking good is you can watch the movie, and the movie with Reese Witherspoon is fantastic. I think they did a beautiful homage to this book. The last time that I read this book, I devoured it in a single sitting. And then I watched the movie almost directly after it. I think if you have the chance to do both, to read this and then watch the movie, I think they work so nicely with each other. So those are my genre-specific nonfiction recommendations for you all. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your recommendations would be. I'd love to hear. I'm always looking for new books to read, obviously. If you haven't seen this video yet, go and check it out. And otherwise, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, a beautiful time reading or watching movies or experiencing media in whatever form you feel is right for you today, and I will see you all next time.